Hi, I'm Brenda from Employers for Childcare, Family Benefits Advice Team. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about providing the service that we provide to parents of children who have a disability or additional needs. So that's what we're sort of focusing on through the talk. I also want to touch on what happens when your child who's on DLA turns 16 as well, because we do get a lot of parents phoning us who have children who have just turned 16. So this is something that's quite common. So we've decided we would use this time to talk about that as well. As we go through, please feel free to ask any questions and we will answer as you go along. So you can type your questions and we will have someone who will answer those as we go along, or certainly shortly after. So feel free to ask any questions as well. So just to introduce ourselves, our Family Benefits Advice Service can provide free, impartial and confidential advice to parents, not just those with disabilities, but all parents and carers. Particularly, as I say, this session is for parents who have a child with a disability, and just to ensure that they're accessing all of the financial support that their family is entitled to. So many families who have sought advice with us, certainly with or without childcare costs, were financially better off as a result of the contact with the Family Benefits Advice Team. But certainly it's well worth sort of checking that. And just to give you an example, for like universal credit, for example, as a general guide, the income threshold for universal credit is around 37,000 based on one child and full-time childcare costs of £175 a week or more. Many people would be surprised about that because they would think that the 26,000 or the 16,000 is what a lot of people would say to us is the threshold. That's what people think out there. But the threshold does go up when there's childcare costs involved, and it also goes up when there's more than one child on the claim. So another example is two children can be as high as 57,000 in the household based on £300 a week or more of childcare costs going through. So if your child is on DLA as well, these thresholds can get even higher. So it's well worth getting a benefits check from one of our family benefits advisors to let you know, make sure you're not missing out. And I'll certainly let you know the details as we go through towards the end there on how to get in touch, or why not send a question in now to one of our advisors to respond. So it's particularly important to contact us if you've had a change in circumstances recently, particularly due to COVID as well. We're getting a lot of calls from people. Many parents are being furloughed, made redundant, find themselves with extra childcare costs. There's a whole range of different reasons. People are needing financial support during COVID. So it's really important that you contact us to make sure you're not missing out at this difficult time as well. The other thing then is just to give you an idea of the types of advice that we do give. We provide advice and information on a range of childcare and financial support and work-related issues, including support with childcare costs through universal credit, tax-free childcare, tax credits, childcare vouchers for help with childcare as well. Other welfare payments as well, disability payments such as disability living allowance, known as DLA, and the new PIP, which is personal independence payments, carers allowance, the current amount on universal credit. So we can advise on a range of different things, particularly in relation to disability as well. We can also advise on things like maternity and paternity leave, shared parental leave, requesting flexible working is another one that we can provide advice on. So basically, we would urge you to get in touch with any of your queries at all. And the other thing, flexible working can be particularly important for parents with children of a disability. Quite a lot of people get in touch with us and ask us, because of current responsibilities, they need to reduce their hours because current responsibilities are too stressful for them. And there we can help advise on what benefits there would be if you decreased your hours, and can you claim CARES or the current amount on universal credit? So there would be a lot around that as well that we would do. We can look at other forms of financial support, such as free school meals or school uniform allowance. Certainly free school meals and uniform allowance are available to household incomes of 16,190. But if you're over that income, but your child has a disability and special dietary requirements, then you can qualify through that as well. So it's well worth sort of looking into that as well. Many families have certainly been better off as a result of contacting us on many of those issues. So, but let me ask you a few questions. So would you say, are you aware of all the benefits or financial support that your family is entitled to? Is that something that you could confidently say you've had checked out? If not, then I would certainly look for you to contact us if the answer to that is no, or you're not sure. Another question is about universal credit. We mentioned there about the thresholds, just to give you a general guide for thresholds there. It's not for low income. It is to help with childcare costs and disabilities as well. And did you know as well that, for example, a couple don't have to both be working to get their help with the childcare costs if one is a carer, for example, or if one has limited capability themselves, a disability themselves. So it's all these things that are worth looking into. And do remember, feel free to ask any questions as I'm going through this little talk with you tonight. Just feel free to ask any questions, and we'll respond either during the session or shortly after. We have advisors on standby answering any of your questions, so feel free to do that. One of the other areas that we advise on that I've chose to talk about tonight, just as an example of the kind of advice that we can give, this is a particularly common one for us, is the transition from DLA to PIP. So PIP is the new personal independence payment that is replacing DLA, and that began back in 2017. And they're reassessing all DLA claimants from the age of 16 to 64 against PIP now. So as a child would be reassessed when they turn 16 to decide whether they would continue on DLA, they will actually be reassessed against PIP. So if your child is turning 16, then they will be reassessed against PIP then, and you will receive notification of that through the post shortly before the child is 16, normally about 3, maybe even 6 months sometimes, advance notice of that. And it's strongly advised when you get that notification or you're asked to complete the form that you would contact your local advice centre on an organisation, you contact an organisation that is experienced in completing those forms, or local advice centre in your area that would help you complete the form. It may be difficult to get a face-to-face session at the moment due to COVID, but I'm sure they'll be able to help you either over the phone with the questions or through Zoom or Microsoft Teams, for example. So it's really, really worth your while to get the help to complete that form. So I'd also advise you to gather your own medical evidence from GP reports, consultants, and anyone involved in your child's care. I talk to clients, we do talk to clients quite frequently, where perhaps they haven't realised that moving to PIP is a major reassessment. It's not just the tick in the box exercise of moving on, going from the 2 years to the 5 years on DLA. It's very much starting from scratch on a brand new benefit, and therefore the emphasis is very much on you providing your own medical evidence from GP reports, consultants, and anyone involved in your child's care as well. So it's really important that you take this seriously. If you do get this reassessment form from PIP, it's not just a tick in the box. You've got to get it properly filled in and make sure you provide your own medical evidence as well. And that's certainly the advice that we would give many of the parents that contact us. So just as a guide, we do get asked a lot about the PIP rates and how they read across to the existing DLA awards. So I thought it was worthwhile going through that with you, just to basically see what it is, how these rates do read across. So firstly, the low rate care in DLA, right away there is no read across to that. So basically they have essentially taken away the low rate care. So if your child is on low rate care, then you really need to focus on this assessment, because they do need to be upgraded to the equivalent of mid-rate care, and that can be where people lose the DLA. But you know, if you provide good medical evidence and you get form filled in completely with the help, you know, hopefully you will be able to achieve that. Mid-rate care, the equivalent on PIP is standard rate living. It's called standard rate living, and that reads across from the old mid-rate care. High rate care on DLA reads across now to PIP enhanced daily living component. And you've then got the mobility components. So low rate mobility now reads across as standard mobility on PIP, and high rate mobility is the equivalent to enhanced mobility on PIP. So that's the sort of read across. So generally you'll know when you get your award how that reads across from your existing DLA award. So you'll know whether your child has been downgraded or whether they have read across correctly. So if your child is turned down for PIP, then you can ask for it to be looked at again. So this is known, there's a fancy term for this, and it's known as a mandatory reconsideration. So that's just a fancy term for asking another decision maker to look at it again, look at your case again. And if you're not successful, even after mandatory reconsideration, then you can submit an appeal. You need to do a mandatory reconsideration before you can submit an appeal, so you can't skip that stage. So if you're not successful, then you can submit an appeal after the mandatory reconsideration. Once you have a valid appeal lodged, this is very important. If you're being assessed from DLA to PIP and you're unsuccessful, you lodge an appeal, and you will get the equivalent payment of the child's DLA payment, called a supplementary payment, until the appeal is heard. But it's very important to realise that that is actually not a disability payment in its own right. It's only a supplementary payment to financially compensate you while you await your appeal. And therefore it's advisable to contact tax credits and inform them when the disability living allowance stops. And also you will find that things like income support, if you're a carer, that's where there can be issues as well, because you no longer have a child or someone you're looking after on disability living allowance, and therefore you have to advise income support as well. So certainly get in touch with us if there's any concerns around that, or pop a question there if you want someone to get back to you. If your child does receive PIP but the rate has been downgraded, then you can ask for a mandatory consideration, and ultimately you can appeal as well, even though they've got a PIP award but it's been downgraded, so it doesn't read across to those rates that we talked about. And so in that circumstance, you can get paid 75% of the difference between the rate you were on before. So they will pay 75% of that loss until your appeal is heard. And so that's just basically, as I say, what you can do. However, you do need to be aware that you might lose the award that you're actually on. So be aware that you have to watch when you do appeal or even send in a mandatory reconsideration, that another decision could be made to replace the existing decision, which could be worse. And we just like to make sure that parents are aware of that before they then proceed with that. So that's just a flavour of the advice that we can provide on disability issues. There's many other things that we can advise on, caring amounts and on universal credit and caring allowances and things like that, as I say. But it's just to give you a flavour for the types of things that we provide advice on. So I hope this information has been of use to you in this short video. And if you would like to speak to one of our advisors for further information or arrange a free consultation with one of our family benefits advisors, where we can give you a better off calculation or a benefits check, then contact us on our Freephone number 0800 028 3008 or visit our website employersforchildcare.org, and we also have an email address hello@employersforchildcare.org. So hopefully this has been of use, but we look forward to hearing from some of you who have more questions.